Welcome to the Heen View, a podcast series which interviews a range of sport club representatives and leading professional sport club personnel during the COVID-19 shutdown. We find out what these people are doing during the current health crisis with some of our most popular sports seasons postponed. Today, we are coming from East Fruit Market in East Geelong in Ormond Road, in 11 Ormond Road, which have kindly sponsored us for episode 26 of the Heen View. I'm Mark Heen, and today I'm joined by my co-host, Mark Stone. Now, Stoney, welcome to East Fruit Market. It's a great pleasure to be here. We've been in the company of Greg Holt, who's the owner and head honcho. His manager isn't here because he's off after his third baby, but he's got a lot going on. But at the same time too, I'm having a great time with the compliments of Greg Holt, and it's great to be down here.
It is, and I've checked out the avocados at the East Fruit Market, and don't worry, I'll be seeing Greg before I leave. I'm going to pay for him, by the way. But looking forward to the next guest and talking football with someone from Thomson Football Club.
Absolutely, and he's been a big part of their success over the last few years and continues to do really well on the field, and he's been an integral leader. So yes, it's great to be down here at East Fruit Market. Come on down to 11 Ormond Road to get your fruit. Great presentation standards. Today's guest was appointed senior co-coach along with Jared Westwood at the Thomson Football Club for 2020, and also recently came on board for 2021 along with Jared Westwood as well. He played his entire junior and senior career at the Thomson Tigers, and he began his footy at the age of 6 at Thomson and has played more than 150 senior games for the Tigers. He captained the Thomson Tigers to their 2018 Geelong and District Football League Premiership. He was in the Geelong and District Football League interleague team as the vice captain last year when they played against the Bellarine Football League. So we'll talk to him about that. Outside of football, he's a school teacher, and he just celebrated his birthday today as well. So we'll talk to him about that as well. We welcome to the Heen View podcast, Thomson Tigers Football Club senior playing coach, Sam Jacka, the co-coach. Welcome, Sam. Hey, and I've got these little... We understand it's your birthday, Sam, so...
We haven't got a cake for you, though, Sam.
Yeah, sorry. So,
unfortunately.
The Thomson guys didn't actually tell me that. You told me that when I caught up with you at a coffee down the road. And we thought there was a bit of acrobats going on last week with that guy out the front, didn't we?
It was a bit of an interesting afternoon. But
yeah, so thanks for coming down. And I guess in some ways, I know that you've been doing some interviews in the past few months with some Geelong media outlets. This is a little bit different. We are a podcast and we're coming live from East Fruit Market in East Geelong. You've had a little bit more time on your hands, and Saturday afternoons haven't been the norm like they have been in the last 9 or 10 years for you, because you haven't been able to play football. What's a guy like yourself that works during the week, that has a football focus on weekends? What can you do on weekends now with no football on?
Well, it was a bit of a shock to the system, as you said before. Obviously playing for the last 10 years and not really experiencing Saturdays outside of summer to myself. So, I mean, I suppose it's a good opportunity to start spending some more time with the family and spending some time with my niece and nephew who are just growing up as well, both 3 and 6. But got right into running, actually, something that I hadn't been doing for a long time. Obviously, you play footy and you run through that, but you're not getting the Ks in on the weekend outside of it. And it was, just probably refreshing to be able to just run for enjoyment.
So a good place to run if you're down in Torquay. You go from the Salty Dog Cafe to the Surf Club and back. So there you go.
You might have been following me along that.
That's one of my favourite spots to go and run, because it's good on the beach and then on the cliff.
Sam, I was just talking off air before about the body and about, there's a lot of sports that haven't had a winter. Do you think that it could prolong people's careers, having a year off with family and having kids and partners and wives and all those things? I think it's been a really good thing for some players. You can come back now really refreshed with one season off.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we've all probably been thinking that. We've been wondering what kind of effect it's going to have, and it was either going to go one or two ways. People were going to get really comfortable with having that year off and think this is good enough for me, or it was going to drive people back to footy. And I think personally for myself, I know that my body's been able to get a good rest, and it probably has prolonged it a little bit more, because I mean, I've been struggling a few hip issues over the last 2 or 3 years, and just to get that year break has been sensational for my body and my mind, and ready to hit the road in 2021. And get into it.
We come to think of Thomson and some big names. You know, you've got Brent McLeod back. He was supposed to play at Bellarine this year, and he obviously has, he's a Thomson junior, and, you know, the McLeod name is synonymous like the Jacka name is. And, you know, remiss of us not to mention that Sam's dad is actually the president of Thomson. It's got its family origins there. You're sort of tucked into that part of East Geelong. You know, you're back on St Margaret's Primary School, and Tate Street's not that far away. So it's got its own community vibe and identity. What makes the club such a special part of your life, irrespective of the family involvement? What's the biggest joy that you get out of the club off the field as well?
I think it's probably just the culture, the positive culture that's there. We've always been able to attract good people to the club and bring in good people. And, you know, as you mentioned before, people like Luke Forbes who have hung around and been involved in that club for a long time. It's probably, you know, it's good to have that success on the field, but there were years where we were a little bit dry on success, but it was more so the positive culture and the inviting nature that the club has got. And yeah, you do say it is a bit of a community within the community. So been very, very lucky and fortunate to be involved in such a positive club.
You mentioned before about the people that are involved in a sports club, and you see many clubs, no matter what sport it is. And I've only moved to Bellarine recently, and have had to catch up with speed with all the leagues in the area. And I looked at, and I'm a member of the splashdown down there, and a lot of the boys get into the water down there, and always talking about Thomson. I'm thinking, why is Thomson Football Club so successful and has been over the years able to attract players? What is it about? Is it about the people involved? Is it about the history? Is it about the culture? Is it about, I come from a northern suburbs club where you can cut my veins with red and white, and I'm a real Glenroy boy, right? But obviously Thomson's one of those clubs that's really entrenched and really close-knitted.
Yeah. I mean, I was talking about this last week, and we were saying that, you know, a footy club is only as successful on the field as it is off the field. So I think we owe a lot of our success to the people that are behind the scenes, and, you know, footy clubs don't run without those types of people, and we've been really fortunate to have some really, really good people involved. And I am a little bit biased, obviously, with my dad involved as a president and has been a long-serving president for a while. The people that he's had around him, his committee and his teams, are just, you know, they put the community first, and they make sure that people are invited and welcome, and they want to spend time at the club. It's not a rock up, train, play footy and go home. People want to be involved in that club because of the positive environment. And, you know, we've been pretty lucky. We've had some good facility upgrades and things over the years, and we made the most of that, and it's certainly paid dividends for the community that's been involved.
Let's get onto your leadership role, because you've had numerous types of leadership roles within Thomson. Being the senior co-coach for this season, even though you didn't get off the ground, and then reappointed for next season. What was your junior career like as Thomson as a leader? Was there a moment that you thought to yourself, hey, this is for me? Obviously, we need to mention that you are a school teacher as well. So, you know, you are going to be speaking in front of people. So did you find at a younger age, or when you're going through your teens, you would naturally, you would speak in front of the group?
It's an interesting point that you raise. I mean, through really early days in juniors, I was really committed and enjoyed my footy, and I probably drifted out of it between the ages of probably 12 and 16 or 18. And I know it was probably with a few raised eyebrows when I first started playing seniors, and people didn't think that I was cut out for it. It was in my second or third year that I was promoted into the leadership group, and that was probably the moment where I realised that, you know, I could probably make a run at this and enjoy myself. And, you know, they say leaders are born, they're not made, and it's probably always been within me to be a leader within schools and whatnot. But yeah, probably grew into the role, and then when I got my opportunity in 2018, certainly took it with both hands, and pretty lucky to take it over in the year that we have our biggest success, and probably had the opportunity to learn off some really, really positive leaders and positive people in that environment. And yeah, grew into that role really, really well. So have enjoyed every moment of it, and looking to, you know, push the boundaries again this year and then step into coaching.
So there's a lot of school teachers who are coaches and co-coaches, and it's obviously the education around. And is that what your biggest strength is, the ability to be able to speak and communicate to your players individually and obviously as a group? Or is that what you think your strength is?
Yeah, I mean, obviously I've only been able to do it at training. We've had the lockdown this year and no season, but I mean, that's probably what I put a lot of emphasis on, is being able to communicate and connect with people. I think connection in football and relationship in any walk of life is important, but particularly we're seeing in the last few years how important it is to build relationships within a football club environment. Yeah, I'd probably say it definitely is is one of my strengths, and that certainly comes from the background of teaching and education.
In some of your previous interviews, I think there was one that was on K-Rock Footy with Tom King, and you mentioned about not having broached the situation around salary cap. Now, you know yourself that the Country Football League regions and even Metropolitan are going to have to reduce their salary cap in what's happened with COVID. So how does Sam Jacka go about talking to players and retaining players? I understand that there's that loyal base, but you're not going to be necessarily, and I don't think Thomson needs to attract a big fish because you've been quite dominant the last 2 years, playing off in a grand final for the last 2 years, winning one maybe a little bit earlier than expected. But I think during that interview, you mentioned you hadn't broached that subject. And what are those plans for 2021 in retaining the list and also about having those discussions about salary cap?
So I'm pretty lucky because Westy's probably taken the reins on most of that.
So that's Jared Westwood?
Jared Westwood, of course, yep. So he's done a lot of that negotiation and discussion. But as I said before, when we were sitting in those lockdowns, we thought it was going to go either, people were probably happy to put the queue in the rack or they were going to come back with a hunger, and most of our guys have come back with a hunger, and it's probably that communication and transparency. We've been really clear. Everyone's expected to take the 20-25% cut right from the top down. I mean, I'm involved in that myself, so it's probably a little bit easier to expect that of others.
It's really interesting. Community sport, right, is amazing, especially football and cricket. I don't know if you play the sports, but people get paid to play and it's what they do on Saturday afternoons, right? But if you've got a really good culture, a really good history, a really good team and team orientated, even at every level, like every level is going to take a hit. AFL's the salary cap's going to reduce and VFL and right down. But it's about the connection between the people at your club and the players that will determine, okay, this is my club. Yeah. This is the club I play for. Yeah. This is the club I want to play for. You're a group of mates. You didn't play this year, so you know what? We're going to have a crack. I don't care about the money. I get a few dollars, but it's about us playing together for team success. I think that's what Thomson seems to be, a club like that.
Yeah, and we're really lucky in that regard. I mean, to turn a positive from a negative, we lose the 2019 grand final where we probably should have won it and we didn't. That's probably spurred the boys on a little bit more, and people are willing to take that cut and stick together as a group because we've got that strong foundation. And you're right, culture is everything, and we've got a really good group of guys together who want to play footy together, and dollars are the second thing on their mind. They just want to be involved in the footy club and kicking the footy around on a Saturday afternoon.
Sam Jacka, the footballer outside of Thomson, last year, and we had a little bit of a chuckle this week. You said you've managed to find out that you were the vice captain of the GDFL team, the Geelong District Football League. Yeah. But you had a picture with Josh Finch last year. He's a decorated Bellarine Football League footballer with Mottawarri, and we're going to be speaking to a Mottawarri person in a few weeks. So we look forward to that. Won't be Josh, but at the same time too, will be someone from Mottawarri. And it would be great to have them on board. But you yourself, I mean, that's still obviously an honour. And you mentioned last week to me that there probably wasn't a lot of people when you walked into that sort of dressing room initially that, you had to engage in, acquainting yourself with new people. They weren't the Thomson people. I mean, representative football, what's that mean to you? Because you're very loyal to Thomson, but what's the representative side been like? And have you played much other than interleague outside of Thomson?
No, so the only games I've ever played elsewhere have been involved with the three times I represented Geelong District Football League. Yeah, it was a bit of a rude awakening, I must admit. You get in your comfort zone and you don't have to intermingle and mix with other people. But probably a good turning point personally in my life to learn how important it is to put yourself outside your comfort zone and good things happen outside your comfort zone. So
who'd you play on in that interleague game? Remember?
I did play a lot on Josh Finch, and I've had a laugh about it the other day.
You had a bit of height on him too, didn't you?
I did have a bit of height, but he certainly had the engine on me. I was chasing him up and down the wings all day, and I got probably gassed by half time, I must admit. But,
and he reads the play really well.
He's a very smart footballer.
Yeah. And obviously that game, so we just wanted to mention too, that was against the Bellarine Football League. So it was interesting because generally when you play those games, you might be going up to Hamilton or Horsham. I know that's the Ballarine's done that, and they do a bonding trip there. Now, these leagues are geographically really close, so there was a bit of rivalry there, wasn't there?
Yeah, well, my first run at interleague footy was up in Wedderburn, so it was a nice 2 or 3 hour bus ride up there. So that was certainly a way to get acquainted with the new people I was playing footy with. But yeah, I had Geelong 2018, played down here, and then last year obviously played the Bellarine. But that was, that's suited history. That hasn't happened for 30 years, I think, before that. So it was built up to be a pretty big monument, a pretty big moment. So yeah, I must admit we didn't come away with the win, and we were always always the heavy underdogs, but it was really good for the town of Geelong and really good to, put your name down in that and say you're involved. Because
do you think that the gap is closing between Geelong District and Bellarine? Because we know some of the players that play in the Bellarine. I mean, we had Don Gleeson on last week.
Yeah.
There's some good players, but Geelong District seem to be bridging that gap.
Yeah, I mean, probably 10 years ago, and there was a massive cultural overhaul in our interleague setup because people were just, we had the motto of don't just rock up to collect the jumper, and that's kind of stuck through the last 5 or 6 years. But yeah, definitely, the gap has closed. The GDFL starting to attract, some bigger names, and I would have liked to have had a few more bigger names that were running around in our team last year. But look, the BFL is certainly still ahead of us. But yeah, I would certainly agree that the gap has closed.
But if you've got players like Reece Holwell, who was a premiership coach in 2018.
Yeah, mate, I'd love to say yes, but
hello to Reece Holwell out there. I know if you're watching, but there might be a little bit of a pledge to get you to come back to Thomson at some stage. But Brent Taylor, he's gone back to Drysdale, and I've had a little bit to do with Drysdale along with the journey. So I've got a few people out there that I know. So hello to our Drysdale Football Club listeners or viewers out there. But those particular names themselves. So I guess to have some of that Bellarine or GFL people playing in a GDFL game, that's huge for a league itself like GFL.
Definitely. And there is that that run of GFL, BFL, GDFL, and it kind of people move through their careers in that stage. But there were a few BFL boys that were obviously had played a lot of footy in the BFL and had come to the GDFL, and it was a bit of a grudge match for them. They wanted to show what they were still about. And Reece piped it up. He was all over it from December when it was announced. So he was ecstatic that it was going to happen.
Now, I've got to ask you, I'm always curious about which team you follow in the AFL.
Yep.
Who was it?
I do follow the Cats, yep.
Has that never ever been, a reason, or just because you're in Geelong?
No, I think it was just, born into it. Mum and Dad both pretty diehard Cats fans, so I don't think we really had a choice, but pretty happy with.
Can they win this weekend?
I'd like to say yes. Yes, I do.
Most Geelong people would be saying that.
I'm taking them at $2 odds at the moment. I'm not a big gambling man.
The other thing is also, like, outside of footy, are you a sports person? Because on the show, we like to find out about the personality and the guest about what do they do outside what their sport is. So you're a sportsman that plays all sport, or are you just a footy person?
Solely footy. I mean, I solely play football, but I'm a massive sports fan. I will admit that probably NFL is probably my priority. If I was given a choice between watching the AFL and the NFL, it'd be a bit of a toss of the coin, really. But I absolutely love the strategy side of that game and the athletes that play that sport.
Sorry, mate, one little one. What grade do you teach?
6 to 8.
6 to 8.
Yes.
Yeah. I called it secondary.
I am 7 to 8, but I do a lot. I'm right across the board.
So we had a discussion during the week about primary, secondary. And I thought, well, that's almost classed as secondary.
We'll count me as secondary.
Yeah, but I came from a 7 and 8 campus, so there you go. So Buckley's, the involvement that they have with the GDFL.
Yep.
It's such a huge, important thing. Now, yes, this shows a bit about COVID, and during the course of the season or before the season, they made an announcement. So it was in June. We take ourselves back to June. What's going to happen? Are we going to have a season or not? But it was so good for those clubs in the wider region to have a financial supplement from Buckley's, particularly the GDFL clubs. So how important is it from a club perspective, knowing that there's no bar, there's no canteen, there's no people going through the gates, pay their entry fee to get into the GDFL, to have some, as a club, to get that financial supplement and contribution towards the season?
That's massive. I mean, footy clubs don't exist without sponsors and amazing supporters. So, Buckley's have been amazing. I know we're here at East Fruit Market, and they've been amazing across the journey for Thomson Footy Club. Yeah, it's huge. It's huge. You're not taking any money from the bar. The canteen's shut. And these guys are doing it pretty hard here as well. So it's a bit remiss of us to think that they're the only ones that are going to keep the clubs afloat. So next year, making sure people are getting down to clubs and supporting them as best they can, and supporting the people that have supported them, because clubs are happy to put their hand out, but we've got to give back to the people that are giving to us.
One last one for me, Sam. How keen are you to get back on the track in pre-season? Because really, you've had You haven't had much of a season. No season.
It was almost going to go tonight, but it got a bit wet.
There was about 6 or 7 of us that went down for a kick at the Thomson Footy Club this afternoon, and the torrential rain hit just as we pulled up, and we stood there and ummed and ahed for about half an hour, and it didn't happen. But yeah, no, really, really keen. I mean, I've been going for kicks with a couple of boys, off the side a little bit recently, but as soon as November rolls around, mate, hopefully those restrictions are eased and we can get back into some form of training.
Good stuff.
Can you use the tennis courts at St Margaret's or nearby?
Who knows, mate? There's some good netball courts there.
Yes, there are.
We've
Been there before. Hey, we love to have a bit of banter on the show.
You're not going to pull Luke Forbes out of something.
No, I'm not.
He's home the kids.
Forbes is not, and this goss doesn't come from Forbes. The goss is that Sam Jacka's, well, no, he's not a slippery show, but he loves coming into the change rooms with some gouchy equipment. Some wallets, he's all waxed up. He's he is squeaky clean from a body point of view, and he's well built too, which is great from a football point of view. But he comes with some designer labels when he comes into the change rooms. And one of these guys asked if he might be a forward pocket dynamo. Just see if he could get a pay rise too.
As soon as you said forward pocket dynamo, I know who you're talking about. So I'll be giving you a call later, mate. Don't you worry about that. But no, I do enjoy my fashion labels and enjoy the fashion world a little bit. But try to say I'm a bit of a fashionista. But I'll let other people decide.
That's a good word, isn't it? That's the word of the modern times of fashionista. There we go. So we've got our first fashionista on the Stonehenge View. How good's that, everyone?
Even at 50 years old, I keep trying that.
Well, you don't look that young or old. But Sam, obviously coming down to East Fruit Market before we wrap up, it's a great pleasure, and they are a silver sponsor of the club. So thanks to Greg Holt that's been down here as well, and we'll do a bit of a final salute to them at the end. But it's great to have a sponsor like this on board to support you guys.
Absolutely is, and hopefully we continue that sponsorship for a few more years to come, definitely. So thanks for having me, guys. Really appreciate it.
Well, there you go, Mark Stone. Sam Jacka, he's played over 150 games for Thomson, and he will keep on going. And then he's going to be co-coaching next year. They'll be up there with the flag favourites, along with Bannockburn as well.
I'm going to go and see a couple of Thomson games next season. But Greg, well done. But there's one little thing I've got to mention tonight. One of our former guests, Matty Flapper, the coach of the Ocean Grove Bowling Club, is actually going a charity ride at the moment, Fight Kids Cancer. And if anybody's interested in getting involved with that, make sure it's a great charity. Matty's doing a great job doing some rides. So greatcyclechallenge.com.au. Get on board and support the charity, because any charity is a good charity for kids.
And it's been mentioned on Facebook as well. So get out there and support the great cause. Obviously, in these times, we need to think about people's health and cancer. So absolutely. So we wanted to thank you for coming on the Stonehenge View. We've had Sam Jacka today. Obviously, it's a different perspective, Mark Stone. Thanks to the compliments of Greg Holt. Greg's in the background there. So thank you, Greg Holt. Wherever you are in the sky, Luke Forbes. I think Nicole's around here somewhere. Maddie, who's doing the live, and it'll be on East Fruit Market. And this podcast is going to go up on the Thomson Football Netball Club site as well as Media Advisory Services, Mark Heen and Media, and of course the Stonehenge View. So obviously check out East Fruit Market. They're at 11 Ormond Road in East Geelong, and you can also go to their Instagram and Facebook account as well, eastfruitmarket.com.au. To do your online deliveries during the COVID times. Mark Stone, it's been a great pleasure to have you on.
Absolute pleasure to be here.
And you can check out the Stonehenge View. You can type it into Facebook. We're on a lot of platforms, Sam. Instagram. Our podcast is also available on Apple Podcasts and also Spotify. The launching platform is Podbean. And what are the two other things that we do, Mark Stone, as well?
Well, the only two after YouTube and Twitter. And those two are going as well. So check it out, the Stonehenge View, on YouTube and on Twitter. And
they're our most recent additions as well.
So
just to mention, our sponsors for the last 2 weeks have been East Fruit Market and also McCartney. So thanks to their hospitality and letting us in and doing the show. We're going to be out at Leopold Sportsman's Club next week. So we're going to wrap up here. Thanks to Sam Jacka and also Greg Holt, who helped us with the elevator pitch, the owner and head honcho there. And we'll see you next time on the Stonehenge View for episode 27. We are coming out to the Leopold Sportsman's Club, and we're going to have a guest on from the Leopold Football Netball Club. So bye for now, and we'll see you soon.